Hey everyone, this is Cameron from Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you listen to them. We are everywhere. That way, we can keep doing what we love, and that's finally finishing up the anime from the summer season. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And we also got Haley.
Yo.
And Teresa.
Hello.
And yeah, we are finishing the summer 2022 anime season. This week, we are covering the fantasy / Isekai and the slice of life. Now, before we get too into this, how did we feel about this bunch? Haley, we'll start with you. Any improvement since last week or about the same?
See, I think there is a sense of improvement. I don't think that means everything is super good. I still think that a lot of this anime is average to decent. But that's a huge swing up from just how bad pretty much everything was in the last episode we watched. In watching some of this stuff, I think I'm going to have some maybe slightly controversial opinions about some of these anime because there were some that I think are being well received that just didn't land well at all for me. But it's a definite improvement, which is not what I expected when I was like, oh god, we have 7 isekai to watch. Jesus. This is the best crop of isekai we've watched probably since the beginning.
I would actually agree with that. In fact, now that I've been through the list, I'm a lot relieved because we might have overplayed how daunting this crop would be. There's surprisingly more variety than I realized. Teresa, what about you?
I thought it was just okay. I thought when it was good, it was really good. So I found some new shows that I really like and I want to watch. But the other stuff, there's more boring and one offensive show. So I can't in good conscience say it was better than the last round. But definitely I will agree with the Isekai that they had some new spins on it. It made me love some slimes, and I wasn't really a big fan of the other slime show, and now I'm like, oh, this is a delight. I love all the slime creatures. So definitely that part improved.
I'm looking forward to getting to that one. But Cameron, your overall thoughts on this bunch?
While this is a upgrade per se on the shows we watched last time, I would still overall consider the summer season to be the weakest of the bunch so far. Who knows? Fall could be worse in some ways, but I don't think that will be when we have so many amazing titles like Chainsaw Man, and of course Chainsaw Man.
I'm especially looking forward to Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
Guys, you really need to talk about Chainsaw Man. I know you haven't brought it up yet, but Chainsaw Man's going to be big.
Yeah. But I did find a lot more of these titles more admirable in some regards. They weren't just all boilerplate nonsense. They at least tried something with their shows, but I don't know if I consider them top 10 material unless I go through them and finish them, but we'll have to see. So let's get started with the fantasy isekai area. We have Harem in the Labyrinth in Another World. Content warning: this whole show is about sex slavery as a fetish, which is about a young man who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world and ends up basically buying a whole harem that are nothing but sex slaves. We have Black Summoner, which is about a young man who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world with the class of Monster Tamer, where he basically tames a bunch of monsters and buys a elf slave. Okay. Vermeil and Gold, the one pure fantasy show of the bunch, about a boy at a magic school who summons a powerful succubus demoness as his familiar to pass the summoning class. My isekai life, I gained a second character class and became the strongest sage in the world, which is about a young man who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world. I swear to God, these are all different shows. Who becomes a monster tamer and tames a bunch of monsters. Yes, I am not repeating the other show. We have Parallel World Pharmacy, which is about a young man who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world that focuses more on medicine. And we have Uncle from Another World, where someone's uncle who was in a coma for 17 years finally comes out of it and tells his nephew that he was in a fantasy world of that time. So with this genre, we have two sides of the spectrum. We have Uncle from Another World and Parallel World Pharmacy, which are trying to do something different, that actually do something different. And then we have the other shows that are like on the other side with Harem in the Labyrinth, In Another World, and Black Summoner. And then we'll talk about everything in between. Teresa, what did you think about the fantasy isekai section?
Oh, so many boobs. Why? I started with Vermilion Gold, and that's probably why I'm like, oh, the boobs, too much. Like, I understand the obsession in theoretically, but this demon takes it too far. In Vermilion Gold, the whole time I was like, please find some different clothes for this character. Why was this character painted this way? It looks like she should fall over from the gravity of the boobs all the time. And then the maid, I just... There's so many, we don't always need to go there. They do, and obviously Harem in the Labyrinth and Another World is the worst one. I highly recommend you skip it, even without the selling slaves part. Once I got to that, I was like, oh dear. So it was just a whole bag of yuck, but the good stuff, Uncle from Another World, was hilarious. The animation style is amazing. I am one of those people who loves Sega, so all the Sega jokes really landed on me. I felt like it was made for me. You can be weird and funny and dark, and you don't have to be offensive. Like, I feel like there's different shows, really going for it. Black Summoner was okay. It wasn't offensive on the boob scale, but it's definitely, he's buying a slave. Here we are again. He frees her. He frees the half-elf, so not as offensive as Harem in the Labyrinth, more watchable. I did watch the dub, but I'm disappointed sometimes in all the boobs. But definitely feel like the animation overall was a lot stronger compared to a lot of shows we watched last episode. That's a plus for the genre as a whole. I felt like everything was pretty solid in the isekai fantasy genre. And my favorite show, My Isekai Life, has the cutest little slimes, and they all have little characters. It's almost as if they like made them into little like slime smurfs, and they have little like personalities, and I thought it was amazing. And then also in Black Summoner, he has like a best friend slime, and I'm like, I'm here for the cute slime BFFs, little assistants. Like, more of this, please. Definitely a lot going on still. Is too much anime. Some we could have just gone without. That's Harem in the Labyrinth in Another World. But definitely, if this is your genre, you're probably very excited about the summer season. And definitely, even with all the boobs, I will say Vermilion Gold is watchable. I like the duels. The animation is pretty good. So those are my thoughts.
Haley, what did you think about the fantasy isekai batch?
So I think overall it's a mixed bag. We're gonna probably spend a lot of time repeating that Harem in the Labyrinth and the Other World is just like fucking terrible. Like, if you can somehow get past the very in-depth discussions of purchasing human sex slaves, you get to the point where you realize the show is about as exciting as watching paint dry outside of that. So it's like listening to your most boring Trump adjacent neighbor ramble on for like 15 hours. It's not pleasant. Like, it's just everything about it is unpleasant in kind of the most banal, evil sort of way. It's not fun. I honestly, like, I'm looking at my notes and I can't even tell you like what's happening in this show outside of sex slavery and being bored to tears. Black Summoner has the problem that most isekai does, where it's like, I feel like I'd get more out of watching someone play a JRPG than watching this show. I will give points for him buying the slave and then setting her free, which I was not expecting, especially after the very weird interlude in the first episode where he sees the elf girl up for sale, kind of like smirks at her and walks away. And I was like, it's the weirdest way I've seen any of these shows handle this. What the fuck was that? But again, about as exciting as watching grass grow on your front yard. Like, this is my controversial statement of the episode. I did not think Uncle from Another World was all that great. The humor has to land, I feel like, for that show to work, and it just wasn't working for me. I did laugh like once or twice. The fact that he truly did not seem to grasp that the tsundere girl following him around was in love with him was pretty good for a joke, but it seems like they're dragging the shit out of that one, and I wasn't a super fan of how the show handled the introduction of the best friend. It looks really nice. It's definitely something that I think people are really enjoying. It just didn't hit me right. It's not something I'd continue looking up. I think my favorite of all of these was the My Isekai Life, which I did not expect going into this, but it really shows that like you can make a compelling isekai. Like they're using very specific narrative techniques to get you involved in this scenario that sets it apart from the kind of dime a dozen, let's watch you play a video game shows. Like we're kind of dropped en media res into the story of My Isekai Life. We don't have to watch him be like, oh man, how do I use my powers? Oh, it's a good thing I was a gamer. Well, he's not. When we do see flashbacks to when he started his journey, he has no idea what the hell he's doing. The slimes are his saviors, and the slimes are the best part of any show in this season, I feel like. The army of Smurf-like slimes is a great descriptor, Teresa, so I'm taking that. The Smurf slimes are fantastic. Just the sense of character we get from this guy is great, and while he seems to be kind of like an invincible hero at first, the show takes great pains to outline his weaknesses. Specifically that, yeah, he has an amazing amount of power, but he's kind of a glass cannon and can only use it in specific instances. And he relies an awful lot on his party members, the Slime Smurfs and the Wolf and the Nature Girl, which I didn't get to episode 3, and I was hoping we'd learn more about her from the first episode, the Nature Fairy Girl. It kind of leaves like the leftover Vermeil and Gold, which is deeply stupid, but not the most unpleasant thing on earth, I guess. It is a lot of boobs. I'm very, very concerned as to why this apparent 16-year-old has his sister's clothes with him in a boarding school, and not just his sister's clothes, but his sister's virgin-killing sweater that he can give to a succubus demon. Like, you start thinking about some of these things in Vermeil and Gold, and you're like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? I couldn't get over the fact that Alto, our lead, looks about 13 and has this very obviously not childish succubus demon following him around, and it's unpleasant.
Yeah.
I think the general story beats work fairly well. The show clearly wants to be porn, but not in a way that's annoying, where it's like what Harem in the Labyrinth devolves into. It's not stuff that would be censored out, but it's like clearly it's following like plot lines that it's like, okay, someone envisioned the show as porn, but then they were like, no, we can't do that, and then ripped a whole bunch of things out to make like an actual story. But it reminded me of kind of like a crappy version of Tenchi Muyo. It's got some really old 90s tropes from anime that it's playing with, and I don't hate that. I love Tenchi Muyo, but like the way they're presented here is just not great. Vermeil is weird because there's clearly a lot of thought put into it. It is into its world building. It's kind of generic world building, but it's more thought that's in most of these like magic school shows. They clearly have characters they want to build on. I think that Mark's guy is fantastic. He was introduced in episode 2, and I was just like, oh, okay, they want to create an interesting world here. It's just they somehow decided to hinge it on the most boring 15-year-old you've ever seen, who's being kind of harassed by an adult 7,000-year-old demon. It's just kind of a weird story choice there. So yeah, overall a mixed bag. Like I said, my favorite was My Isekai Life, which was not something I expected to be into at all just from the title. Like, by the time I stopped watching it, I hadn't even learned where the hell his second class came in. Like, the award for most misleading title, I think, goes to My Isekai Life, because the title makes it sound like you're just going to be in for another slog of video game-inspired nonsense, but it's actually pretty good. I think that's all of the isekai, but...
What about Parallel World Pharmacy?
Oh, right. I was like, I knew I was forgetting something. Parallel World Pharmacy is also very good, but Parallel World Pharmacy feels like it's not of this genre. Like they were going for something completely different, but because it's like, oh, it's in a vaguely European setting and he was reborn, just kind of got to throw it into the isekai genre. It's a very serious kind of meditation on the power of medicine and the goals of healing and what it means to be a doctor and a healer. And it's a very interesting show with a lot of intrigue to it. I really like that. I'm liking the isekai shows I find where the person being isekai'd isn't just some fucking deadbeat loser. Like, this guy was a pharmacist who was so devoted to finding cure for a disease that he straight up overworked himself to death and is now reborn in an area or in a time frame far, far away from the kind of advanced medicine that he was making. So now he can use the knowledge he has from our time period to really help people. But there's a lot of obstacles kind of in his way, like the fact that he had a pretty well-documented life before he inhabited this child's body. So his magic is all over the place when it used to be very strong. Well, now he's just like, I don't even know what's going on. The dynamic with him and his tutor is really interesting too. This was one of the first ones I watched, but I enjoyed that. It's clearly not going for a power fantasy. It feels more like the Saint's magic power is omnipotent, and that it's really trying to like tell a compelling story of someone who is a fish out of water and needs to adjust or die, basically.
Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, this was an interesting bunch. I described in our group chat earlier how the isekai genre is to anime as metalcore is to heavy metal music, in that for as many standout titles there are like 50 other generic kind of carbon copies of ideas we've seen before. So as far as this batch goes, we get like the most generic stuff like Black Summoner, which was like fine for what it was, but it's kind of boilerplate for the genre. We do get the worst of the bunch, Harem's Labyrinth in Another World, which I don't think I would recommend to anyone for reasons that have already been mentioned. But then we do get the more interesting stuff, like My Isekai Life. I was actually kind of surprised how much I enjoyed that, mostly because of the slimes. The slimes are great. I especially like the one that basically looks like a blue Pringles logo. Had to bring up the guy with the mustache. The two best shows were Parallel World Pharmacy, which is basically a medical drama that just happens to have the isekai trappings. I watched that one all the way up to the 4th episode just because I was really sucked into the arc of the main character and how he's kind of getting used to his new magical abilities. And also just the world building around that I found all so fascinating. The one that, of course, everyone's talking about for the right reasons, Uncle from Another World, which has just the right amount of cynicism, critiquing the isekai genre, but also kind of, it's a little bit of a fish out of water with the uncle having been in a coma for 17 years. So he's kind of like reintroduced to pop culture, everything that he's missed. All the stuff about Sega was pretty funny. And all the YouTube commentary was amusing as well. I love how he kept like losing and gaining subscribers just because all of his replies. That was pretty funny. Oh yeah, Vermilion Gold. It's the fan service show, disappointingly, because it's the one non-isekai show in this bunch. But I think what made it watchable was the fact that all the side characters and the people in the school were a lot more engaging than our main protagonist, who was just kind of there. But yeah, this is not as bad as I feared going into the season. I think there's enough shows here that I can recommend, while the others can be tossed in the trash.
The thing with Harem in the Labyrinth is that if you're going to base your whole fetish off of sex slavery, you have to go full commitment of going the route of where everyone, like making the show, writing it, creating it, and the audience all have to be on the same page. Or else you have something like this show where it's a whole slave fetish. I get that. That's partially the big problem here, but the other big problem of how they set it up is that it's not just the fun fantasy aspect of it all. It's the slavery is framed like how old fantasy or medieval time slavery would go. And that's uncomfortable. Like, even outside of the whole fetish stuff, I don't know how you're supposed to find that titillating when the world of slavery is miserable, horrifying, dehumanizing. It doesn't work. And the show tries to keep having these moments where the lead character is self-reflecting on everything, trying to give him a character. But you know what's going to happen with him. He's going to buy a harem, mostly because he was told, oh, they can't say no to you. And it's like, that is so messed up, because at first he feels like he's horrified of the whole slavery aspect of the world. And then he's told, oh, you can buy a sex slave. And then he's like, don't care. I can buy a sex slave. And it's like, the first 3 episodes are all about buying this one slave. And it's uncomfortable. It's gross. It's not very animated well. This is by the same studio who did Miruko-chan from last fall and Interspecies Reviewers, Studio Passion. Why did this show up on Crunchyroll? The censorship through the subtitles and the dialogue, and just covering up all the nudity with what looks like your PC's about to crash with all the windows popping up. Even if you wanted to watch this for fan service, you might as well watch a blue screen of death on your computer.
You talking about this just reminded me, the worlds in Harem and Labyrinth and Another World is just very bizarre outside of the sex slavery too. Like, there's like registration papers that people need to have to go anywhere, registration screens or something.
Mm-hmm.
But bandits don't have screens because they are, as we're informed, escaped slaves of some kind. And the narrative constantly frames our hero and other people killing and really brutalizing these slaves who have escaped as a good thing, which is just like, the world itself is extremely toxic. It's just like, I don't understand. It's like the second you escape from slavery, you're just a bandit, and apparently your only ability to take on work is to just attack random cities. Like, it's so colossally weird. Just
it is
so strange. Passing this off as some sort of depth of story, and it's like, no, you just didn't think about this because you wanted people to want to bone the lady who looks like a cow. It took me a long time to figure out that she had like ears on her and not that she was wearing like a stupid cloth on her head. It's like, why has she got like a doily on her head? And it's like, oh, she's supposed to be like some sort of fucking dog or something. I'm like, wow, that's on the nose.
That is so on the nose. It's like, if you're going to have monster girls, you might as well just watch Monster Musume, which went just all out with that kind of whole monster girl harem aspect. And no, it's just not fun to watch. It's very unpleasant. And I've seen some people try to defend it, saying like, but the show actually takes time to explain how the world works. And it's like, explaining how your fantasy world works is the bare minimum that you can do. That's not special. Maybe it's because the rest of the show is garbage that having the show take time to explain like the hierarchy of everything is interesting and a pro in some ways, but it's really not. Then with Black Summoner, it's just boilerplate. I did get a kick out of the knight, like when our hero first meets him. The knight's like, I am so happy finally someone's wanted to talk to me instead of attack me. You wouldn't believe how many people attack me. And I like the English dub. I think the actors are doing well. But the knight does sound like Rainn Wilson or Bill Hader. It's a very interesting take on the character. And they do try to have good chemistry among its core crew. But it's like, as I was watching it, I kept thinking about other Isekai that I could be watching. Like, I was thinking about fall 2021, and that one had like Faraway Paladin, where it took an extensive amount of time to explain its world, its religion, and build a bond between our characters. And it was like, I could be watching that right now instead of Black Summoner, because there's just nothing really distinct about it. For Male in Gold, like y'all said, is weird. It wants to be porny. It has a very specific fetish of what it wants to be as porn. I'm just going to say it. If the roles were reversed, like it was a female student with a male familiar, I would think there would be a problem, or more people would be having an issue with it.
Oh,
because
definitely.
There's a real lack of consent. And I know that might be part of the kink and whatever, but come on, y'all. Consent's the least you can do with these things. Like, that's a problem with a lot of these harem anime kind of things. The main character does not like the more aggressive, like, love interests. And it's just like, just have everyone be on the same level. I don't know. And it's just, and the whole porn aspect of it clashes with the world building and the fact that our succubus demon woman has a dark history. They keep showing that off and hinting at it within the ending of the show. And I did look it up a little just to see what was up. And it is very dark, but I just don't think I care enough to sit through the rest of the show to get to that point. And it's animated fine. It looks fine. That blue-haired girl with the more maid-like uniform looks like one of the characters from Re:Zero. My Isekai life is like the comfort food Isekai. It doesn't do anything revolutionary, but it executes it well. This main character is more compelling. I love how the flashback have those like painted look like to those sequences. And he is like powerful, but he's not like the strongest person there. He still has to worry about everything. He's basically how you play a wizard in Dungeons and Dragons. You are very powerful, but you are, like Haley said, a glass cannon. So you cannot be attacked. So it is interesting to see him work off of everyone else. It's a compelling story. I just don't know why it's so hard, writers and authors, to say, like, what would make people interested here? That's what I get from, like, Parallel World Pharmacy, which I know we talked about the Saint's magic is omnipotent. That's because it has the same writer. So
that explains everything.
And the same studio that made it.
This writer has a thing, and they're going to make sure everyone knows it. By God.
What's interesting about it is how its whole, like, the state and what's going on in the world, it's all about how the medical stuff is tied to just mostly the rich, and how his challenge of trying to craft more medicine and potions. Like, we should have gotten this last summer with that other drugstore in another world show that was just really boring and really creepy.
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that.
Like, this is the good version of that mediocre show from back then. And I like our main character. His whole drive of, I worked myself to death because I did not want someone else to die from the disease that killed my sister. He still has that drive here. His interaction with the tutor is all that. It's very likable. I love that aspect of it. So few shows are actually all that compelling with their Uncle from Another World is something that I don't think I've ever quite seen before. I understand why some people will be put off by it because, yes, I've seen some reviews and people that I've talked to say, yeah, the humor didn't work for me. But I've never seen a post-Isekai. It doesn't take place during the power fantasy magic world stuff. It happens after, and it's all about rehabilitating the uncle into being part of society. And the fact that they give him a YouTube career is very funny. They even go down VTuber routes in the third episode. I found it constantly funny of just how, like, it went for a very Konosuba route of writing the uncle. Like, he's not a bad person. He just has no social skills. And he doesn't really know how to interact with the world or catch on that someone was hitting on him. They do actually expand on that joke in their relationship. So it's not too run into the ground. They do actually do more with him and the relationship with the characters and such. But there's actually like something under all the jokes and the gags of what if whoever was Isekai got put back into the world and such. And I just think that's a very cool hook. And it also has probably one of my favorite opening themes of any of the shows. I downloaded the song today, so I was just like, oh no, I'm listening. I have to now buy it. I just think like with Uncle from Another World, Parallel World Pharmacy, and My Isekai Life, they're doing way more than most shows are never going to actually do. If I had to give this genre a grade, I'd probably give it a soft B, mostly because the other three are just not great, but the first three, My Isekai, Parallel World, and Uncle, are more compelling than most of the shows that we've talked about so far this year.
I think a B is fair. I was torn between B and B minus just because of how bad Harem's Labyrinth was.
That freaking show, man. Like, if you just want to make porn, just make hentai. There's a whole audience for that. And I don't know why Crunchyroll decided to get this one. especially like right after the whole they bought Right Stuff Anime and had to tell them to kick off all the hentai and porn that was on their storefront. Because if this was shown up on High Dive, I wouldn't have been shocked. Because High Dive tends to have the more softcore, ecchi stuff every other year.
Hen, Vermel, and Gold.
Yes, you would at least have the uncensored version of Harem in the Labyrinth because I don't know. It almost seems like Harem in the Labyrinth is in on the joke of the censorship because they just go so ridiculous on it at points. But I don't know. Definitely like a B for the fantasy isekai.
I'd personally go with like a C minus, but I didn't really like In Another World. So for me, it was like Parallel Pharmacy and my isekai life really doing some heavy lifting on this.
No, I understand. I contemplated a C plus just because of the other three dragging everything down.
I didn't bring it up when we were talking about it earlier, but like, I guess if the Sega stuff doesn't work for you, which it didn't for me, that's not really a world I was in at that time. There's so much of it that I was honestly wondering if this was just like a product placement anime for a good chunk of it, which I think was why I wasn't super into it. Beyond me not just finding it funny.
Right,
you know?
Right. Well, it's very specific. It's all about like the Sega Genesis and Sega Saturn. I do love the shout out to Guardian Heroes because that game is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the slice of life genre, which is all over the freaking place this season because some of them are idol shows, some of them are not. Anyway, so we have Prima Doll, a world where a bunch of robot waifu girls are transitioning from wartime work to working in a cafe. The maid I hired recently is Mysterious, which is about a young boy who, for some reason, gets this maid out of the blue. Like, the whole mystery is, why is she here? Shine Post, which is another idol anime with one little hook that we'll talk about later. When Will Ayumu Make His Move, which is by the same author of Teasing Master Tagaki-san, which is about a young boy and girl student in a shogi club who have feelings for one another but don't have the right way to express them. Then we have Phantom of the Idol, which is about a duo idol group where one of them doesn't really want to do all the work and effort that goes into an idol career until he meets this ghost idol who takes over his body and gives him like the energy and such to be an idol. And then we have Teppen, Laughing Till You Cry, which is about a bunch of comedy trios who want to be the best comedy trio. Then we have, for the last one, the Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, which is about a Yakuza's right-hand man having to look over the Yakuza boss's daughter. Have we ever hit something so wildly all over the place with these? Haley, let's start with you, because I'm sure your favorite was Prima Doll.
Oh, totally. Everyone talked like an infant, and I wanted to gouge my eyes out within 15 seconds. Prima Doll is a deeply, deeply vexing show that has a truly horrifying setup that the show is completely uninterested in interrogating. Like, these are robot child soldiers, basically, that are our lead characters. The show thinks what we want to see in a show that has child robot soldiers is for them to just do cute things at a cafe. And it's like, no, good Lord. Like, especially in a season with Licorice Recoil, which also is kind of like, that's an odd concept, teenage assassins. But it's at least showing you, like, the actual issues that come out of something like that. We know there's a grand conspiracy behind the creation of the Licorice Recoil girls, and there's drama with them needing to be more compliant than independent. It's a running theme throughout Licorice Recoil. Prima Doll, man, I don't even know how to describe this show or who this show is meant for. I think the kind of biggest summary of this show's kind of narrative standpoint, it comes in episode 2, where our lead girl, who I think is named Hai Sakura or something like that, Hai Sakura,
Yeah.
out trying to find eggs with...
I forget their names. They are so uninteresting as characters.
There's a little blonde girl, because there is an egg shortage because troops are coming back into the city and there's an increased need for food. Now, if you think the show's going to get into why that might be or what's going on with the government, no, it's not. At the end of the episode, they find the eggs, I think. The show is very stupid. And the two girls are sitting on the roof. And Gakko is like, I was a reconnaissance doll. So I always had to be out at night and be like looking for the enemy. And we're seeing these scenes of like horrific war carnage that she is witnessing and that she is a part of. She gets shot. We see her get shot in this flashback. Her robot team is basically all dismantled and dead. And she's trying to like crawl with seems like near fatal or at least extremely painful wounds to get to the front lines of this battle so she can share her reconnaissance. And she's saying, you know, if I don't do this, I'm responsible for these deaths. And that's a very deep, mature, like hard thing to wrestle with. And I'm like, I was surprised. It's like, oh, is the show finally getting into this? And the response from Haizakura is, and I wrote this down exactly because it infuriated me, was I think you should just forget about painful memories. That's the entire fucking show. The entire show is not interested in interrogating its setup, the casual mind wiping and mind rape that seems to happen to all of these dolls repeatedly. Not interested in interrogating like why so many of them are blaming themselves for issues foisted on them by this government. Definitely not interested in telling us anything about the discount Isekai lead who has decided to shack them all up in his fucking cafe for some inexplicable reason. It's literally like, forget all about everything we just told you about our setup. Now have these juvenile girls in 2 short kimonos singing obnoxious songs to you and serving you omelets. And it's fucking dire. Moving on, because I don't want to talk about that shit anymore. A show I watched for 15 minutes before turning it off, the maid I hired recently is mysterious. Do you enjoy 10-year-olds saying double entendres to women who are twice their age? This show is for you. Otherwise, I would skip this because it's almost animated like South Park. All of the characters kind of move like they're in a fucking slideshow. And in 15 minutes, they did a repeat of this loop where this 10-year-old thinks his maid is mysterious and he suspects that she's up to something. He tells her that she suspects he's up to something in a way that makes it sound like he is sexually interested in her. And she just kind of goes, oh, you. If that's your thing, then yeah, but there's really nothing else to say about that show. It's terrible. Shine Post was interesting. I know I've been harder on idol shows just because it's like, I know this industry, I know what's going on, but the idol shows in this season at least seem to be making a decent effort to showcase like some reality of the situation that idols are in. Like the CEO of this Tings and this idol company is really bizarre, but you know, idol companies do cut girls if they're not bringing in any money. It's like, it's a business. It's not just a dream. While I'm not super sold on the idea of this manager who can tell if people are lying because he's got a weird shimmer filter, there are 2 shows competing with each other in Shine Post. One of them is a damn good idol show about 3 girls who are basically fighting for their lives to keep their careers alive, with the underlying notion that 2 of them maybe don't want to keep their careers alive, which is really interesting. And then it's combined with this show about a generic manager dude who is like, I will take these girls above and beyond. But he kind of behaves like that asshole from that one anime we watched who was isekai back to another world and then started telling people they needed to grow more than 1 crop. Like, that's the level of his managerial expertise. Like,
realist hero.
Yeah.
This guy's management technique is very like, well, no shit. That makes sense. Like, his big thing in episode 2 is like, I'm going to ask my friend if we can have you sell tickets outside of their idol concert because idol fans will want to see more idols. And I'm just like, how has nobody told these girls this before? Like, they don't have to shack up in front of an idol concert. They could go down to like an area known for selling idol goods. They could go to a store that sells idol goods. They could move away from their agency and sell tickets. They could go online. It's just like, you're not the genius you think you are, sir. And you spend so much time just watching them fail. And I'm just like, oh my God, this guy seems like terrible and useless. But he's like, oh, well, you know, the lead girl didn't shine, so I see something in her. It's like, you're fucking weird, dude. Like, Why is anyone trusting you? There's also the issue that the ultimate idol in their show is apparently at the time of this show, 2022, 18 years old. Yet in flashback to like 2017, she was giving full dome concerts. And I'm just like, she 13 doing that? How did this happen? There's weird things on the periphery of Shine Post. I'm nitpicking Shine Post because overall it's one of the best idol anime I've seen. It's got a good hook in that it's about a failing idol group that needs to basically save themselves, and it's a good hook. And I appreciate when that hook isn't used to like, let's save our school, let's save our blank, because it's like an idol group would not do that. It just never rang true to me. Them trying to save themselves rings true to me. Got really nice animation, extremely fluid animation. Like, I think this has the best animation of anything we watched this episode. Like, there's the opening sequence where the lead girl she's like, I'm on a roll today, and she's bouncing up and down the hallway and dancing. Like, it looks really good. There's also a nice mix of 2D and 3D animation when the idols perform. It takes a bit of getting used to. Like, visually, your eyes are like, wait, is that CG? Is that 2D? What's going on? But once you adjust, it looks really, really nice. But Teppen Laughing Till You Cry was my favorite show of this season. Bar none. I was not sure what to expect from this because I was like, oh, this is about men's-eye comedy. And I was like, that's not a comedy genre I'm super familiar with. And I feel like it's extremely specific to Japanese lived experience. Be like me trying to, like, throwing a video of the Edinburgh Fringe in front of you from, like, 2003 and being like, here this is, and you just be like, what the fuck is happening here? Because it's a completely different scene from what's going on in the US. But one thing it nails really great, and it's like the key to the show working really well, is that comedians are fucking weird as shit, and that's also funny. Like, the manzai bits aren't actually super focused on, it's just the everyday stories of these comedy girl pairings, and every single one of these girl groups is absolutely nuts, and I love it. They're just fantastic. The alien group is beyond amazing. There's a group of girls who are obsessed with aliens and are trying to, like, bless their dorm door with good vibes and talk to UFOs, and it's delightful. My only criticism of this is there's a weird cutaway where the black-coated manager is cut away and he's just randomly eating a bunch of fried chicken. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But otherwise, the show was very, very funny. Phantom of the Idol, like, I know I'm going through all of these, like, beat by beat. Probably because they're so all over the place, I can't just be like, well, you know, these idol shows. Like, no, that's, like, literally every show is so different from each other, I don't know what to do. Phantom of the Idol isn't as good as Shine Post, and I think a large part of that is because the animation's not nearly as good. Like, the idol CG stuff is real jank.
Oh, it's awful.
It's extremely janky, but the concept is a lot of fun. And I think this show really nails what the fan experience is like for an idol group. Like, the female fans of our lead who got into liking him for a very specific reason, because he looks dead inside all the time and puts in no effort, are now having to deal with the fact that he's putting in effort. And, like, what does that mean? Do they still want to follow this guy? Are they happy for his popularity? The underlying question of what is the mask with our lead when we go and we focus on the female fans of our lead, which I found really, really interesting. Otherwise, the show is good and hampered by bad animation. It's a very fun concept of our lead, who is a dirtbag, but like a relatable dirtbag. He just wants money, you know, and he thought that this would be easy money, and it's not. There's been cases in the real world where clearly there were idols in it for bad purposes, and that tanks them. It's something that will eventually tank him, and that's something that everyone is making very clear to him. And he happens to run into the ghost of the most driven human being I've ever seen in my life, who was well on her way to becoming a top idol because she just basically worked and worked and worked and worked all the time, because she loved being an idol, and then she died in a car crash before her time. So she wants to get out there and perform. He wants to not lose his job and his reputation. So they have an arrangement where she possesses him while performing, and that's kind of turned the fandom of his group on its head, because he's not actually known for doing any of that. It's cute. I think it's definitely going to go places. I'm really interested to see once our idol group meets the silver-haired guy in the OP, who appears to be from a rival idol band, but is also maybe like one of their biggest fans. It seems like there is going to be some interesting interplay. And given how this show is handled with like intelligence and knowledge, how the female fan culture for male idol groups work, I'm interested to see how they handle the male side of things. But it was a fun time. I don't know that I'd recommend it over Shine Post. Shine Post seems more accessible, and Shine Post looks a lot better, but it's still pretty good. All the idol shows were pretty decent this go around. I didn't watch When Will Ayumu Make His Move because truly it just kind of looks like teasing Master Takagi-san, and it's like, that show already exists with the same author even. But Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, to wrap us all up, feels like the show that Way of the House Husband should have been. Like, it's so incredible to me how badly they screwed up Way of the House Husband. That manga is one of the funniest things I've ever read. And Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting really feels like a team was all, we can capitalize off of this. We can make the good version of that. And they did. I really like the characters in Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting. I like that the kid in question has depth to her. She's been through a lot. Her mother is in a coma. Her father is the head of a Yakuza clan. And she just kind of always seems like she's being shuffled different places and feels isolated. And the Yakuza's right-hand man is a reckless, violent sociopath in some respects, but he has human decency to him. So liking seeing the child in him bond because it feels natural. Like, she really needs some sort of figure to look up to. Even though we get the sense that she likes her dad, she just doesn't know these people a whole lot. So it's really sweet and very funny. I also really appreciate that a lot of the jokes where it seems like things could take a turn for the worse or start punching down, they never really do. I got a real kick out of the fact that episode 2's plot revolves around the Yakuza kicking out their Yakuza doppelgangers, and they know that their doppelgangers are out there because their doppelgangers are doing terrible shit under their names, and they're just appalled. They're like, we would never disrespect hostesses at the bar. We would never try to assault women. I'm just like, it's fantastic. It feels like I'm watching the anime version of the video game Yakuza, where you also would never do such a thing. So overall, I went through all of these because they are really all over the place. I was very impressed with the idol shows this season overall, because idol shows tend to be very boilerplate and very just follow your dreams. And it's nice to have a season where it's like, no, following your dreams isn't enough. You need to actually live within the realities of this very grindhouse industry. And we've got people talking like children again, and a show I turned off after 15 minutes. So life is full of multitudes.
Teresa, what did you think?
Well, I agree. It was definitely a mixed bag. I am not a fan of idol shows. I will say Phantom of the Idol won me over. I did really like it. Shine Post, for some reason, just really didn't land for me. I think the manager creeped me out, and I was just like, who is this dude? Who is he talking to on the phone? Like, when will this be revealed? And then I decided I didn't care. But I thought the music performance that they do is cute. I was skeptical about them kind of, hey, everyone's going to be a lead singer and that'll be like what we do, solving all their problems all of a sudden, selling tickets. But I love their little blue outfits, and I thought they were cute. We still have some questionable women naked boobs. This maid was almost there. She had an ankle length outfit. Like, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then it's just like big ass cleavage on the top. And the weird, like, I guess if you don't read it in, it's not sexual. But if you think about it hard enough, you're like, what is this little boy talking about in the maid show? So that one, either she's his mother or a stalker. I couldn't decide. I kept going back and forth in the second episode. I think the cat is adorable when it leans into being like innocent and sweet with a little boy who just got orphaned. Like, I could almost watch this show. I didn't understand what time period we were in though, because it was so just them in the house, him and the maid her kind of waiting, and then her costume is kind of old-timey. And then when he goes to school and someone shows up in a limo, I was like, what time period is this? So it's a little confusing, but the third episode grew on me. So I just want someone to tell me the mystery, like what's going on with this maid. I don't know if I need to watch it. Those are the ones I was, when will Ayumu make his move? The first episode literally bored me to tears. The second episode, when they actually do something, they have sports. The third episode at the festival, like, I kind of see where it's going. They're just two awkward teens. But again, Ayuma, like, he just really loud and like tone deaf with his like, I think you're cute and I want to do this. And I was like, I don't know. If that happened in real life, that would really freak me out. I do think it's cute that they like each other and they don't know how to talk about it, but it wasn't really holding me. And that was a lot of the shows in the season. Prima Doll, all the dolls sound exactly the same. Even when there's a girl who's not a doll, her voice is the same. And I'm like, do better. There's like really sad, like military, like themes going on. The one who gets her voice back, like, it was a beautiful story. And then they're just like, we're just going to have her sing at a funeral and cheer everybody up. And I don't know if that's cheerful. The tone is just off and all over the place. And I felt like that was the problem with a lot of these, except for the ones that, you know, I think found the right balance of like Phantom of the Idol found the balance between kind of like funny ghost and then like the actual stuff in Idol where you have to exercise all the time, you have to do all the lessons. He really doesn't want to do it. Like, I feel like it really paired that together well. And Slice Life, I know it's like when it's done right, it's like nice and cute and like that one show, I can't remember the name, where they were just fishing and they were just sisters. Like, you don't need much, but when you have like military dolls mixed with go find eggs. Why are there no chickens? This is like, they can build robots. They can't build a robot chicken. Like, I don't know. It was just very confusing me. My favorites definitely were The Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting and Teppen and Phantom of the Idol. Those are like the strong ones I can highly recommend. I think what they all have in common is they have really strong characters and character pairings. Like the trio of all the troops in Teppen, like, you really want to learn about all of these groups. The opening is perfect, introducing them. It just gets you so ramped and you want to learn more about them. I was very like skeptical of the show, but I thought it was great. The Yakuza and the little girl, like, oh, they had me within like 10 minutes. As soon as he was told, like, you must protect her or I'll kill you, and then he calls her little lady, I was like, this is the most adorable show I've ever seen in my life. And that's definitely my favorite of all of the genres that really like hit it home. I do feel like, you know, if you're an Idol fan, you're probably very excited about this season, but that is I have a bias, I'll say. Personally, for me, I'll have to go the other way of Haley. I thought Phantom of the Idol was better because I liked how it leaned in on the fans and kind of made fun of them and just like really seeing their text chats and things like that. I just thought that was like stronger entertainment compared to the Shine Post. But definitely, like, you know, there's some diamond in the rough. You just have to stick with it. Hopefully this is why you're listening to the podcast, so you can skip the trash and not have to worry about it. But yeah, you know, it was a lot easier than I thought to watch, comparing, even though there was so much idols, you know, most of it's still watchable, most of it's still well animated.
The show you were thinking about, the fishing, was Slow Loop.
Yes, and it was slow but adorable.
It was. That was a good one. I enjoyed that one. Mike, what are your thoughts about the slice of life genre shows?
Other than two really bad examples of the genre, I was pretty surprised by this batch. We'll start with the worst one, Prima Doll, which has like probably the biggest dissonance between, in the background, all of the anti-war sort of backstory about where these like child robot soldiers came from, which could have been interesting to explore, but instead they're like, nah, that's just in the background. This is a cute girls doing cute things in a cafe. And they spend way too much time on that. It doesn't mesh well at all with the stuff in the background. Whereas kind of the polar opposite of that is Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, which balances out the tone of the job that our main character, Kirishima, his role as like the Yakuza boss's right-hand man, they balanced that really well with him taking care of his daughter and all of the time they get to spend with each other bonding. Those were really nice moments, but that might be the most well balanced of all the shows. And then in between you have the maid I hired is mysterious, which there really is no compelling mystery, or if there is, they probably won't reveal it till the very end. Nothing about this is really compelling. You can toss that one in the trash with Prima Doll. Out of the idol shows, I'm really surprised how I enjoyed both of them pretty much equally, and I wasn't expecting that. I think Shine Post, out of the two, probably the better animation. It doesn't have nearly as much jank in the performances as Phantom of the Idol. I also think Phantom of the Idol has a better hook with like the ghost of a former idol kind of helping out the lazy, unmotivated half of the male idol group. There's just something about that sort of like odd couple dynamic that I really enjoy seeing. That's what I really got into. And then there's Teppen, which is probably one of the best shows about comedy, and certainly better than that other one from, I think, last year. The title completely escapes me, but the difference is, A, this one's actually funny. Each of the scenarios that they get into all escalate to like absurd lengths. And the fact that they're all kind of true stories framed around the Manzai performances just kind of makes it all better. On the whole, I'd say this is I'd probably give this a B plus in terms of this batch. A lot more compelling series than When Will Ayumu Make His Move? Yeah, this is fine. I like how it took a kind of unique approach to like the romance compared to other romantic comedies from this year. It doesn't stack up.
Yeah, Prima Doll was just terrible. It felt like some kind of gotcha game anime that was the clashing tones of the anti-war stuff. Because, like, here's how I'm going to pitch Prima Doll. It's a slice of life transitional drama of a bunch of soldiers coming back from the war and adapting to modern life. That on its own sounds great. I know there are movies that are about that kind of mindset. Too bad half of the cast looks like Vocaloid dolls. They look like these virtual pop idols that you're supposed to fall for, but they're all extremely annoying, especially the main one. And her very, like, I get what she's trying to do, but her blunt way of going about things comes off extremely unlikable. Just like, who cares about your trauma? Get over it. And it's like, man, screw you. And I'm sorry, you can have all the dark anti-war drama happening, but you cannot make it dramatic looking when half the characters look like little kids. And it's not even like the child soldier stories that you hear. Here's this little girl character who looks like she was made to look like a statue that you put on your shelf with a huge gun and this super sad, try-hard music and execution of the scene, and it doesn't work. They could have just made this a bunch of robot girls work at a cafe. It would have been boring. It would have been like bottom of the barrel, but at least it wouldn't be clashing left and right with the serious drama against the cute slice of life nonsense. It's so aggravating to sit through. I was bored, I was annoyed, and I was laughing more than feeling sad. And I know this studio or the people who worked on it are kind of known for that. They're really try hard with their drama. The maid I hired recently, the mystery is not there. You have to have more than just, oh, look at this hot girl. Anime has cute anime girls all the time. You can't just rely on that. And if you were going to rely on that, the animation had to be better because this looks like garbage. People can try to paint the relationship between our two leads as not romantic, but there's an obvious romance angle. You could maybe look at it as the boy going through puberty or something, but there's an age gap like romance growing with this, and I just cannot stand those kind of things. It's creepy, and it's not very interesting as a show. It basically does the whole like, she's very mysterious. 15 minutes pass. She's very mysterious. 15 minutes pass. You get the idea. And they try to add a little more with some outside characters, like this one friend and her butler who doesn't want to wear a maid outfit. And I'm sorry, I just find it hilarious that this maid will wear this very sexy version of a maid uniform in front of the kid, but when she goes out, she wears like more formal wear. And it's like, creepy. Shine Post, I was kind of like in and out of. I like the hook about the guy who has that whole gimmick of I can see when people are lying or being dishonest, but they don't go anywhere with that, or it becomes less of an important part of the story. It's more about the behind the scenes, the production work, the interpersonal drama of some of the characters. And I went to the 4th episode and it gets better. Like you dive more into the one who's having like self-worth issues in the 3rd episode, and it's solved in the 4th episode. It's very nice looking. Probably the best animation of the bunch. But I didn't find the characters all that interesting. I did read that a lot of the voice actors for this show are actually like new idols, and I couldn't tell you which one was new or not, or who were new to voice acting. I thought that little background thing was interesting to say the least. When Will Ayumu Make His Move is definitely way better than In the Heart of Kunoichi Tsubaki, which was from last season and also based on from the same author of Teasing Master Tagaki-san. It's at least not as creepy. But when you come out right after Kaguya-sama, Aha-Ren, Shikamori, Sasaki and Miyano, you have very big shoes to fill. You would think this shogi club kind of premise would be interesting. The male character is like, I'm not going to confess my feelings for you until I beat you. The twist is that he sucks. But the show drops it. It just becomes more of like, oh, they're in a shogi club as time goes on. And I don't think this show looks good. It's a very drab color palette. When I was thinking they were maybe wanting to go with like that soft hued nostalgic feel, kind of like when you see in the Isao Takahata film Only Yesterday when they do the flashback sequences. But the animation is just fine. It's very cheap at times, but it gets the job done enough. There's just not a whole lot of compelling stuff, and it becomes very uneven with how it progresses its story as time goes on. Phantom of the Idol was just, I love this one. I love the dynamic between our two leads. I enjoy the fact that it's another idol show that focuses on the fans to a degree. That was like one of my favorite things from what was it? I think it was from 2020. If my favorite idol made it to the Budokan, I would die, which was all about focusing on the fan experience of the idol industry. But it also was able to balance out the fan stuff and the ghost idol with the fact that being an idol is very workman-like. You gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta dance all the time. I could see how someone could be like, okay, I'll do this if I can make a lot of money. And it's like, oh Lord, I do not like this. The main guy is like a very introverted individual from the early on episodes. And I do like how he does have like a chemistry with the ghost idol. How he's just like, hey, if you leave now, you'll never be on the big stage with like out there with me when we're performing. I want you to be able to enjoy your dream for me to keep my job. But then like it cuts to him in his thoughts saying like, I really need her to do this job. I think they find a way to balance out his punkish behavior more than in the first episode. I know a few people were kind of like, I don't know, it's all going to be how they treat this one guy. But it was very delightful. Teppen, on the other hand, is the surprise of the season. But I should have probably known it was going to be something special because it's one of the directors, Shinji Takamatsu, is behind so many comedy anime. He was a director on School Rumble. He had his hand in most of the Gintama franchise. He was the director for Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto-kun? And he was the director for that Cute High Earth Defense Club anime, the magical boy group that wore like the Sailor Moon outfits anime that was like maybe a decade or so from ago. And they do a lot of things that keep you pumped to get into the show. They go all out with the comedy. It's absurd. I love when the ninja group is trying to go through the variety show thing, and the guy is so like stubborn, like, no, I want to make a show where it's all cute girls, and that's what anyone ever wants to watch. So he just like hires a small military group to kidnap every guy on site so they can just take them away. Or like how if they get the answer wrong, because one of the girls is like, they want to see me mess up, so I gotta mess up. And it's like, here's a nice mattress to fall on. And they're all like, that's not going to work. It's like their comedy ideologies are like very front and center of who they are. And they're pointing out like, that's not comedy, man. It's very charming, and the animation is fantastic. It's not overwhelming with how many characters there are. They don't just focus on all of them all at once. I think that's what was the downside of that voice acting anime from 2 seasons ago, Q. And just a delightful and charming show. I definitely want to watch more of this one. And the Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting. If you like shows like Kotaro Lives Alone or Sweetness and Lightning, this is your kind of show. The dynamic between our violent-driven Yakuza right hands works very well with the young girl who, yeah, she feels like she's being tossed around and isn't being treated as a person, and Yakuza is just being a kind individual. Like, he does have a kind side to him, even though most people know him as this intensely violent individual. I did get a huge kick out of the red light, green light sequence, where he's just like, hey, I have these 2 friends who are following us, and they're too shy to come over to say hi. How about we play red light, green light? And she's like, okay, red light. And then he just dashes back to beat the tar out of the 2 guys who turned out to be like other Yakuza members from a different clan. Like, this show finds a way to balance out the drama and the comedy really well. Very happy about that. And yes, I know we all kind of joked about like, oh, well, this has to be better than Way of the House Husband. And then it came true. I don't think you'll find me more mad about any anime from last year. Like, one that I was more mad at than Way of the House Husband, even though I still found it funny. The fact that they made it a motion comic is still one of the most baffling decisions ever. With the Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, they just say, yeah, we're not doing that. We're going to animate it. We're going to make it look good, give you a good opening, a cast of likable characters, and actual emotional depth within all the Yakuza members and the side characters. It's a lot of fun. Probably one of my favorite anime of the year so far. And with that, we are done with the overall summer season. I think I would give the slice of life genre maybe a C+. If Prima Doll wasn't so wretched, I would probably give it a B. But the fact that Prima Doll and the maid I hired are just so bad, I was just like, no, you're not getting a B. You'll get a C+ because the other shows are pulling their weight where you are not.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, still a weak season. I still think the winter season was better than this, even though the winter season had like rusted armors. But it also had Sapekui Bisco and Sasaki and Miyano, Slow Loop, and Salaryman's Club, which is still like the best sports anime of the year. I will die on that hill. Let's go through what our top 5 would be like. Which ones would you all recommend? Mike, you go first.
And these are in no particular order. Tap in if you want a really funny comedy series. Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting has to be in there. From last week, I still recommend Licorice Recoil, and then Phantom of the Idol, and Parallel World Pharmacy.
Alrighty. Haley, which ones would you recommend?
I think my number 1 would be Teppen. Icarus Recoil, I think, would still be my number 2. My Isekai Life coming in strong at number 3. Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting is probably 4, and 5. It's hard because I think Extreme Hearts is just so delightfully stupid, but I know that Parallel World Pharmacy is actually better in quality. So maybe depending on what you'd be into in a particular, what mood you're in, I would say either Parallel World Pharmacy or Extreme Hearts.
Teresa, which ones would you pick?
I would go with Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, Licorice Recoil, Uncle from Another World, my isekai life. And I'm stuck on my fifth, but I think I'm going to go with Phantom of the Idol.
It's interesting because I was thinking, I don't think too much will change between my top 3 and my top 5. I think my previous top 3 just got kicked out, like all of them. I would choose The Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, Teppen, Uncle from Another World, Parallel World Pharmacy, Phantom of the Idol, with Call of the Night being a very close 6th, and then Licorice Recoil being number 7. And yeah, I mean, like I said, not a great season, probably the worst one so far. And I hope we do run into a time where the summer season is not the worst. But so far, I haven't seen that be true ever. And, a thought I should never have while watching the current anime season is what's the next season going to have? Because the next season has, I know we joke, but it does have Chainsaw Man, Spy X Family Part 2, Blue Lock, which looks like it's going to be the best soccer anime of the season. Let's hope. And
Eternal Boys.
The Urusei Yatsura reboots. There's a lot of more interesting shows that are like a little more variety. Yeah, Eternal Boys looks great because it's just middle-aged men form an idol group. That sounds like a lot of fun. And we're also getting more Pui Pui Molcar also, so...
Yes!
And then there was some other season stuff like drops, like Welcome to Demon School and Aruma-kun is getting a new season. And I don't like being like, I'd rather just skip this season, but that's what's going to happen. But that is it for this summer anime wrap up.
All right. This was a fun episode. I always enjoy doing these every season. But until next time, Teresa, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me at Teresa Electro on all social channels.
And Haley, where can everyone find you or not find you?
Don't find me. I'm in the Renegade Pop Culture Facebook group. I'm not here.
You are the phantom of the podcast.
I am. I possess this podcast occasionally so we can talk about bad anime.
I know. Hopefully sometime we'll talk about that new Tokyo Mew Mew show. I would like to talk about that one at some point.
Yes. And Futo PI, which was my favorite show of the season that we're not talking about because you need to have seen a 53 episode series and 4 movies that have not been licensed in America to understand it.
Oh gosh. Like along with the HBO Max nonsense happening, this is why pirating and torrenting is a thing.
I've changed my tune on that a lot over the past couple years, but we'll get more into that later. Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Cam's Eye View. I have my own website called camseyeview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at CaptainK42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. We also have a YouTube channel. You can find us on Podchaser and the Banana Meter. Listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.